Hey everyone, it's Elsie here from the customer care team. Today we're looking at custom exports. What are custom exports? Imagine a world where you have to export data from Keela every month or every week or even every day. Who knows how you're using your data? On top of this, there is so much data stored in Keela that your exports can be huge. We wanted to find a way for you to save that kind of export that you do and make sure that you only have the data that you need in that export and then let you revisit that in the future so you can use it time and time again. Custom exports can be found in your personal settings. So if you have the correct user permissions, you'll be able to access contacts, fundraising, or memberships. You can make your own custom exports just for you. So jump on in here to your personal settings. And then we've just got this personal exports tab here. So here's where you can create export templates or view your export history. This is our first iteration of custom exports, and at the moment you can use them for contacts. So if you're exporting a list of people, individuals, or companies, donors, volunteers, any of that kind of profile information from contacts. You can export transactions. So that's donations or revenue data that you can export from fundraising or after creating a report. Membership subscriptions. So if you navigate into a specific membership subscription plan, you'll be able to export data from there. Form responses. If you want to look at the donations that you've received through a donation form, maybe volunteer applications through a custom form, or just contacts who've signed up for your subscription form. Maybe they've opted into your newsletter. You'll be able to export all of the responses for a specific form from a CSV to a CSV file. We're actually looking to collect any feedback and usage data on the tool, and we'll be reviewing it in the future to see if we have any more sort of data types that folks would like to use custom exports for. If you have an idea, feel free to log it in our product portal. We'd be happy to hear about it, but otherwise we'll be checking ourselves as well. So we already know how to get to personal exports, but once you're in here, you can adjust or add new export templates in here by clicking Manage. We want to send out thank you letters to every person who gave us a recurring donation this year, all of our active recurring donors. And there's hundreds and hundreds, and you don't have time to write out on envelopes each person's address. So you need to find a way to create mailing labels out of the data in Keela. And this is a pretty common process. It's called a mail merge. And it's when you get an Excel spreadsheet and you combine it with a program like Microsoft Word, and you use that to automatically create mailing labels and print them out. And all you need for this is a contact's full name and their address, which is something you can export from Keela. But since you know that you're always only going to need the full name and the address, it's a really good example of a custom export because the details never change. Let's check it out. So click New Export Template. We just learned about all the different types that you can choose from here. Since I'm wanting to look at people or individuals or organizations, it's contact data that I'm after. So I'll select Export Contacts and give it a template name. I'm going to call it Mail Merge because I'm incredibly inventive. So that's the name that I'll be able to look out for whenever I'm selecting this template in the future. And then I can just choose my available columns. So it's a really simple one. I only need full name and primary address for this one, but as you can see, there's a bunch of different other ones that you can choose from. You can choose custom fields, email subscription status is one that you can choose. So maybe just come in here and have a look and think about all the different combinations that you use regularly and create your own so that they're ready to go next time if you like. Let's just save that for the moment. That's all I need. So now I've got this in here, and if I want, I can edit it in the future. I can delete it if I don't need it anymore, but I'll always be able to access it from here. All right, let's see it in action now. So I'm heading to contacts, and I want only those contacts who are recurring donors. So if you need to apply any filters or narrow down your data, just make sure you add the filters first. So that's what we'll do. I'll go here. I'm looking at donation subscriptions, so those recurring donors, and I'd only want to see those that are active. So I'll select status, as active, and now I can see all my active recurring donors in here. To be honest, there's only 6, so I could probably uh, write Donald Duck's name on an envelope. But for the purposes of this, let's imagine there's 600. So now I've filtered my list. I know exactly who I'm going to be exporting. I'm ready to export. So here's our export icon that you'll find throughout the system. Whenever you see this, it means you can export data that you've got displayed on your screen. So let's click there, and I can choose from my list of saved exports here. So I'm just going to choose Mail Merge, and it will show you the fields just in case. So we don't expect you to remember the ones that you have, and also give you the opportunity to remove some and add more if you need later on. Click Next. You can change the name that your file will be given when it's downloaded. So I'm going to say, let's say recurring donors. Save. Now see this view export history link. It's one of the 2 ways that you can access your export. I'll be covering it a little bit later. The first way I want to show you is just remind everyone that you can always access your exports from the notifications bar up here. So you can just click on it and it'll take you to your notifications, and you can download it directly from here. So that's probably the quickest way. You'll always have access to notifications. But look, there it is. It's called Recurring Donors, and it has the address details that I need. I'm ready to go. Remember, one very important note is that the exports themselves, they're a way for you to set out which columns of data you would like to export from wherever you are. So regardless of if you're in a fundraising list, in contacts, memberships, or reports, in your form responses, it's a way for you to say, in this export that I'm doing, these are the columns of data that I would like to view. They're actually not connected to filters, so be sure to filter your list first if you need to only see specific folks or specific transactions, and then export your list, and custom exports will let you choose of those contacts or transactions that you filtered, what data you'd like to see from them. Alrighty, picture this. On the first day of each month, I have to send out a spreadsheet of the previous month's donations to my accountant. They don't want access to Keela. They don't want to touch it. They just want me to send them the information that they need, and I do that on the first of every month. So there's so much information available on a donation. You've got the campaign, the transaction ID, all of that kind of stuff, and they get quite overwhelmed if I send them the whole spreadsheet. So they've just asked for some specific details that they want every month. Because it's an ongoing export that I'm doing, it's a really good example of a custom export because I'm going to be doing it regularly. Now, another thing about it, though, to consider is that because each month I'm only going to be looking at a specific subset of donations, it might also be useful for me to save those donations as a report so that I don't have to keep recreating the list every month. I want it to be created and automatically updated to kind of streamline as much of it as I can. And because of that, because I want to save it and come back to it, then it's a good candidate for a report. If I only wanted to do it once, I could come into fundraising and transactions, I could filter a list, get it done and get it sent out, but I want to come back to it in the future. So I want to save it and look at it later. So I'm going to save this as a report. Head to Reports, create a report. I'm going to look at transactions and all donations. Now I'm going to apply my filters. I'm going to look at date received, and I'm just going to put it as is relatively last month, so that no matter what day I look at it, it's always going to be looking at donations from the previous month. So if today is the 1st of December, if I come and look at it on the 1st of January, the donations that are in this list will automatically update. It's sort of self-updating and dynamic. So like I said, I'm going to come back next. So I'm going to say last month's donations updates automatically. So I know those dates are always updating. I don't need to come back and change them. Okay, so my list is saved. This report is here. I can always access it from here, and I don't have to keep changing the filters. They're always going to be applied, and they're always going to keep themselves updated. So the next thing to do is to get that spreadsheet for my accountant. So for some reason, my accountant only needs three pieces of information. I'm sure your accountant needs more, but mine needs the amount, the date, and the name of the donor. So I'm going to export that, but I don't have a template for it. I didn't create a template in my personal settings already. Not to worry, because I'm going to just create one on the fly and then save the columns as a new export. So I need the donor's name. That was one. Date received was another. Total amount was another. I dare say you'll probably need the transaction ID in yours, maybe. Any of these other really handy labels like campaigns, soft credit, keywords, whether or not there was a dedication, all that kind of stuff. You can choose as many as you like from this list. Since I'm wanting to save it on the fly, I'm going to call it my monthly donation export, and I will spell donation correctly. Here we go. Okay, cool. So now I'll save it. Let's say it is November's donations. We'll save that. And now this time, if I like, I can click on View Export History, that hyperlink, and it'll just take me here. So here in your personal exports, when you access personal exports, you would have seen me skip past this, but you can always view your exports and access them in here. So you can delete them as well if you don't need them. There might be some in here that you think, they weren't important. But for the ones that you might want to keep a record of or that you might want to come back to later on, they'll always be here and you can store them. The last thing to note is that because your custom exports are held in your personal settings, they're personal to your account. So when you when you export data, it's available in here to view, but no one else can view that. It's personal to your account. So you won't be able to see your team members' exports. They won't be able to access this. And these export templates here, they're just for your use. So most definitely share your ideas for your custom exports with your team members, but you'll only see your own personal ones here so that we don't clutter up each other's export histories or each other's accounts. A question that I hear from folks is, where should I export from? You've given us so many options, so many different places that we can create reports or we can create filters, we can export. Where do I go? So in Keela, you can export data from the fundraising section, from the contact section, from memberships, from forms, and from the reports section. So what's the difference? The main thing to remember is that you can save reports along with any filters that you've applied to them and refer back to them later, and they'll even keep themselves up to date. So the fundraising section of Keela and the contact section, they allow you to apply filters, but only as a one-time. It lets you check a question off really quickly. It doesn't save those lists. So if you're wondering, ask yourself, will I ever need this to export a list like this again? Am I just answering a once-off question, or do I want to save it and come back to it later? If the answer is no, if you're not wanting to use this again, then it's fine to use fundraising or contacts. You can export from then. But if you think, hey, maybe I might want to look at this export again, or I might need this data in the future, or perhaps this is something I'm going to be reviewing on an ongoing basis, then I recommend saving it as a report, and then you'll always be able to go back and view it. Happy exporting!